We are back, final segment this morning with Marla Williams. She's with Legal Aid, helps an awful lot of people sometimes dealing with debt that they're trying to wrestle with, these payday loans and the like. We have Rick who waited through the break. Let's take his call real quick. Rick, go ahead, Rick. Are you there? Hey, Rick, good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. Well, I just wanted to say that I was recalling back, I think it was 1977, I bought my first car. And I found out, I didn't know at the time, I knew nothing about interest rates, that there was a cap at the time on interest rates. It was 10% plus something called 4 points, which is, I'm not quite sure what that is.
Yep.
But the most they could charge you was 14%. Well, they charged me 18% for the car.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know that they were overcharging me.
Sure.
But a friend of mine looked at it. I showed it to a lawyer, and I was able to get not only my money back for the car or for the loan, but 3 times that amount, triple. I got triple. I got like.
Because you caught them, yeah, you caught them doing something wrong and sometimes charging fees. Have you come across cases like what he described there? And that was years ago, but do some of these companies sometimes wedge in fees that maybe aren't entirely appropriate? That, you know, I mean, look, I get bills sometimes from cable companies and others, and I don't know if what that 12 cents a month or $2 there goes toward. I don't know.
They do.
Okay.
And Rick, I think you're trying to say treble damages.
Treble damages, which is?
The 3 times the amount of your damages. But yeah, often in the cases that we see, we find that these companies have assessed fees that they shouldn't have, even under the law. The law states what fees and what can be charged upon default. And default means when you don't pay when the payment's due, or you don't pay the amount that's due. You know, so we found that sometimes these entities continue to charge customary fees, which again is the 0.7% per day. When they shouldn't, because the law says that the law does not say that those fees are allowed after default.
Is that a gray area, or is it pretty clear that that's inappropriate?
Well, it hasn't. There's not been a court decision on it, but the statute.
Okay.
The statute doesn't.
It's pretty clear.
You know, the statute's clear on what can be charged after default. But so what happens is, even if you miss a payment, these companies still, you know, continue for months to assess fees, and then after they stop collecting, and then they stop collecting through the company, and then they refer it to an attorney.
And by the way, what if you just declare bankruptcy? I mean, like anything else, that kind of shuts it down for some people. Of course, you don't want to do that if you can avoid it. Real quick, a couple things. One, we've had representatives from this industry on this show before. It's been a while, but I mean, they're basically going to say what I've heard, and I think you've heard from their attorneys sometimes when you're in litigation with them, is, listen, we provide a service, okay, that people take advantage of their own free will, and we allow them to borrow money when they can't get it anywhere else for money they really need. And that's kind of what they hang their hat on, and that sounds good, and that's true. Now, they're not saying, well, to borrow this money, you're going to have to pay an awful lot, but on its face, that's basically what they do, is it not?
It is.
Okay, so that is a service, their own free will. You're not working with a bank or anything. You have no dog in this fight, except you're with Legal Aid and you see what happens. The big picture for you is that that's true, they provide it, it's legal, and what I just described sounds pretty good for some folks. Your issue is that, you know, sometimes people don't realize ultimately what they're getting into when they go that route.
Well, yes, that's true, but we are able sometimes to prove that they don't owe what they've been sued for.
Okay. Okay, well that's too then.
Yeah, that, and then as I mentioned before, we can defend we can defend the case and also provide information or help with protecting the money you have in the bank, if you have any, and your personal property.
And you can also help, as credit counselors do as well sometimes, I suppose. Let's face it, there may be fees that they're not supposed to be charged, but other times, look, under what they agreed to, the interest rate, they do owe a ton, and that's legal and legit. Can you sometimes negotiate with these companies after a while to try to say, well, we're going to pay as much as we can here. Can we knock off some of these fees? Do you do some of that?
We do.
Can people seek that out?
We do. The cases that legal aid gets, because we're not credit counselors, we're attorneys, and so we get cases after these folks have been sued. Mm-hmm. So they come to us with their civil warrant, and then we look into their case to determine if there's anything we can do to help them. Mm-hmm. We can always help them with like the post-judgment things that I've talked about a couple of times today, but we look at the accounting to see if they've been charged fees that the company wasn't entitled to. Mm-hmm. And we can negotiate. We've tried some of these cases, but we've also been successful in negotiating so that our clients have to pay a lesser amount and maybe set up a payment agreement to avoid wage garnishment.
I guess just with our remaining time, then you've probably helped dozens and dozens of clients that have dealt with this.
Our firm has, yes.
What are we talking here in terms of the state of Tennessee? I mean, are we talking over the last, several, I don't know how long these businesses have been around, 2 decades, more, 3 decades?
I'd say.
Millions of people have used them?
In the 90s, I think.
Okay, so since then, millions of people. Mm-hmm. Millions of people have done this, and you've seen them, and they don't all come to you. Some people use these and are able to pay it off.
I'd say. I mean, I wouldn't see those people, but I would say that some may.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm just thinking, if you need something really quick, you've got gainful employment for some reason, just this 1 month you've been hit, and this is the only place you can go to. Maybe that's your best option, okay? But that's the rare individual maybe then who can get that money back and pay it all off with whatever's owed as well and walk away without doing it again. Mm-hmm. Would you say that's the exception, not the rule, that most of the others are the ones that really are living hand to mouth and for whatever reason decide to go this route and then find themselves buried?
Definitely, that is the exception.
It is.
It definitely is the exception. I mean, like I said, I don't hear from those people, but I would think that the people you've described would probably have another alternative. Mm-hmm. Of course, some of the people we see have alternatives, and we try to talk about making choices. We did an article during the holidays, like, make gifts and bake goods and things like that instead of borrowing from one of these the high costs.
Is that when a lot of this really kicks in around the holidays?
A lot of it does.
Sure. Mm-hmm. People who want to be able to buy gifts, and I totally sympathize and understand. Mm-hmm. And then these companies are going to say, see, because of us, they were able to buy gifts for their family.
Sure.
Which may be true. Mm-hmm. Problem is they'll be paying for it till next Christmas.
Right.
And the other thing I have seen too, there have been some communities that have tried to pass zoning to limit how many of these establishments can go into their neighborhoods. I don't know if that makes a difference, but you see some of them popping up, and then you may notice that some of these businesses are popping up in certain areas of town.
Right.
Targeting a certain clientele.
Yeah. Like I live in Cookeville and work in the Upper Cumberland, so we don't have a lot of these businesses in the 10 counties where I work, but I work closely with our Nashville attorneys. We have our consumer law team where we meet and talk about these issues, and I sent a poll out by email a couple of weeks ago, and to ask, is this what are you seeing in Davidson County? And it's like a lot of these are along Nolensville Road and other places where racial minorities tend to reside in
lower income areas, perhaps?
Lower income areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I think anyone sitting here listening to us and to you at least maybe has a better handle on this. If you choose to go that route, handle with care and be very cautious. But I think your recommendation is a good one. If you can find any other option, go that route, because it's going to get you. And you've been at this how many years?
Gosh, 33.
Okay. Wow, more than 3 decades. So you've seen it, and you are so calm and nice, and I appreciate Legal Aid does such good work helping so many people on a variety of issues. But this is an important one, especially in this day and age when some people are really tight financially. Just preying on them and putting them in further debt just ticks me off, and that happens sometimes. So do with it as you will. Hopefully we've educated some this morning. Yeah,
and I'd like to ask, if you having an issue with high cost credit, please call the legal aid in your area. You can find our information online. And like I said, contact us if you're sued or if you have questions before being sued. Yeah, the whole idea of legal aid is it is free. They're very busy. It's pro bono, but you guys do great work. Marla, thank you. Okay, thank you, Nick. It is a pleasure having you on this morning. Thank you for coming on. Okay. We'll take a break. I'll be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this. Stay with us.